The death toll from last week's horrific shipwreck on the coast of Christmas Island could be as high as 50. Today, the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, told a press conference the federal police believe there were about 90 asylum seekers aboard the boat. 30 bodies have been recovered so far, leaving up to 20 people unaccounted for. The small community on Christmas Island is still struggling to come to terms with last week's tragic scenes. There's a lingering sense of grief as the search for bodies continues, as well as frustration from those who witnessed the tragedy but were unable to help. ABC correspondent Zoe Daniel reports from Christmas Island.
Calm weather in Flying Fish Cove brings out the beauty of this remote island. Life is slowly returning to normal here, but still the customs boats conduct a grim patrol, looking for the bodies of people still missing from Wednesday's shipwreck, a tragedy that no one here will ever forget.
The people on the boat was screaming for help. And I saw a lady there pointing at the back of the boat and saying that a man was holding a baby and saying baby dying, you know. And the boat kept on coming closer and closer with the big wave pushing towards the cliff.
Kamar Ismail was on the cliffs that morning last week, part of a crew of locals doing everything they could to save men, women and children who'd come so far only to lose their lives in the last few metres of their journey.
So everybody was in the water then, and I kept on looking for the baby that the man was holding, and it was not there.
Dozens died in the tragedy. Some are still missing. 3 children were orphaned and they're now in detention on the island. The community is close-knit here. There are about 1,500 permanent residents. Now they're trying to support each other. We can't show the faces of those in church because asylum seekers do worship here. Some who were already in the island's facilities had relatives on the crashed boat. It's a challenging lead up to Christmas in a place that's named for the celebration. Despite the trauma, many locals are still donating time to the effort to recover any further bodies. Among them is SHIRE President Gordon Thomson.
Well, this is an enormous tragedy. I don't think that there's been any... Well, there certainly hasn't been anything like this happen on Christmas Island before.
He's worried about what'll happen when the island's residents return from holidays on the mainland in a few weeks with lingering trauma about what they saw.
There are people who are badly affected, and some people express a bit of anger, but I think that's their way of venting their anxieties and stress. Some people are very quiet, and that's troubling. Also troubling is the number of children who have left the island in the last couple of days who would have been down there on Wednesday morning trying to assist or responding to the calls for help.
Island Administrator Brian Lacy is also concerned about the long-term impact on the community. He was on the cliff top too on Wednesday morning.
There were young children in the water, and despite attempts by people on the rocks to have the children put into the ropes to be pulled up, they couldn't get them into the ropes. And so that, as I say, was just a terrible feeling of sadness, seeing those young children being washed against the rocks as well.
So far, half of the dead have been identified. Police are confident they will be able to identify all of the victims. 3 Indonesian crew members are being held and are likely to be charged. The surviving asylum seekers, it seems, will have to go through the usual processes. It's unclear whether that'll be the case for the 3 orphans. Meanwhile, the federal government is under pressure to capture the people smuggler responsible.
If there are crimes that have been committed and that can be proven, of course we want to jail offenders.
And yet that person was identified as a people smuggler some months ago in a television program aired by the ABC. Why did Australian authorities not act against him then in conjunction with the Indonesians?
Well, what is referred to in a television program isn't actually the basis or foundation upon which people make decisions.
Well, except that if that person's now found responsible for the deaths of 30 people, questions can be asked about why authorities didn't act.
Yeah, so that's a hypothetical question. My point is, law enforcement agencies and the courts have to go through this process carefully and, of course, have regard to due process. They also have to work with law enforcement agencies in the region, and they will continue to do that because, as you may know, we've now, I think, jailed over 80 people for people smuggling offences.
Local Kamar Ismail, who saw the boat wrecked on the rocks, wants the government to target the organiser of the trip.
To put people on boats like this, you know, I mean, the government need to look into that too. You know, I mean, the people who wants to go onto that boat, I mean, for them to come down here is the risk that they take too.
Too fast for me.
His life is forever changed, and so is this island.
I still think about the man holding that baby and a woman that pointing the baby. I don't know whether they're still alive or not. That's, yeah.
Memorial services have been held inside the detention centres, but Christmas Island locals aren't ready. They'll wait until after their Christmas celebration to confront the tragedy and commemorate the dead.
Zoe Daniel reporting from Christmas Island.